Welcome to this episode of the Chasing Possible podcast. I hope everyone had a good holiday weekend. I hope it was spent doing some fun stuff, maybe shooting some fireworks, eating good food, having a good time. But we're back. It is Thursday, July 11th. And in this episode, we're going to walk through just a couple things from the past week, some observations, some obsessions, and then the goals as well. Again, if you're unfamiliar with the structure of this podcast, if we have really cool guests, obviously we'll bring them on. However, if we do not, I'll just be walking through the same content that I share in my newsletter every Wednesday morning. And that's a mix of my current observations. And that means it's, marketing strategies, emerging tech, new startup ideas, things of that nature that are just interesting to me this week. And then my obsessions, what I'm really focused on this week, whether it's a book I'm reading or a project I'm working on or things of that nature. And then lastly, I talk about my goals, whether it's professional or personal, the goals I set for last week, as well as the goals that I'm working on this coming week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Observations this week, I'm really interested in trend play and playing on trends. So, one thing that has been a big one in the past 9 months or so was during the past NFL season, the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift romance was huge. And something that was really interesting to me was just how many small businesses, large corporations, Fortune 500 businesses, everybody kind of jumped on this trend in the social media world to, play on the hype, on the popularity. And this isn't the only example. There's plenty of examples where businesses do this. And, I understand why. I think it's smart to do that. But one thing I've noticed in terms of playing on trends is it's really easy to play on a trend as a brand and not know exactly how that trend ties back to your business. It's one thing to post a little graphic on social media that references the Travis and Taylor romance, but really it needs to put your brand first. And so I feel like there's a lot of brands that reach for this and it can come off as cringy or as reaching towards something that doesn't really represent their brand. And so I think it's just an interesting thing to think about of how when you do want to play on a certain trend that's popular, are you putting your brand first and working in that trend, or are you just pushing out content around the trend to try and grab some more views and likes? Because when it gets down to it, could a piece of content go viral and grab more attention? It could. However, it's way more likely that you're going to create content that puts your brand first and, is meant to be in front of your ICP or people that are going to buy your product or service, and then just tie in that trend. And that's going to be more useful and more highly converting content than something that's just randomly with the goal of virality because you're pushing a trend. I feel like I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but that was my biggest observation this week, was just how brands play on trends on social media. I think TikTok is a good example of this. If you're scrolling through TikTok, it's pretty easy to identify when a big brand is just trying to hop on something, especially if it's a paid video, if they're running paid ads on TikTok and they're trying to work in TikTok trends and audio and things of that nature. Like I said, I think that's the right thing to do. I just think you have to do it very tastefully. And I think it takes a really keen eye to be able to do that, and a lot of experience doing it to make sure you're making the right plays and you're working in relevant cultural trends so that it gets a laugh and not a reaction of, oh, why is this brand doing this? If that makes sense. So that's my observation for this week, is just brands playing on those trends. And like I said, big brands, small businesses, anyone that's posting content on social media, which if you have any sort of business, you should be, just an observation of, how you play on those trends and being sure that you still put the value of your content first and then working in trends after that. So that's my observation for the week. Moving on to my obsession. My current obsession is no-code app building. So I've had an interest in building a SaaS for a while now. It's just from the time consumption to not having any clue what I want to build. And having very limited coding skills, I haven't done any of that. So this week I dove in a little further into the no or low code app building. And I'm really curious to jump into this. I know there's a lot of platforms out there. One of the more popular ones is bubble.io. I've heard people go back and forth on, whether that's the best platform. I think for just getting started for me and learning how to use a no-code app builder, it is a good one to use. However, I do know that there's some drawbacks to it. So I'm curious to jump into that. And like I said, with limited coding ability, it's pretty much limited to CSS and HTML stuff, the very basics. I'm curious to see what exactly you can achieve with a no-code builder. I also have no idea on what I want to build. I've been taking notes over the past few weeks on potential SaaS that I feel like could be valuable to a specific niche or industry. So I'm curious to continue working on ideas and kind of just play around with Bubble moving forward. But I'm excited to get in there. And I read too a stat. Gartner research predicts that 65% of app activity will result from no code development in 2024. So that stat made me really curious because initially my thoughts were, if you try to build something no code, there's no point in it really having any value to anyone. It's just for fun or to build an MVP, minimum viable product, and then you can, eventually hire a developer to build the codes fully when the product is ready. But it seems like that's really not the case. And I think AI's had a bit of, responsibility here too, of the capability of no code or low code app builders is pretty significant in 2024, and it's only going to get better. So like I said, I'm curious to jump in there. I have that as one of my goals for the week. Speaking of which, my goals last week did not go well. I actually failed on all three, which is disappointing, but we're going to move forward and try and be more successful this week. So I tried to log 15 miles in Strava. The holiday weekend messed me up big time there. I tried to have a new article published for Peak to Creek Outdoors. And if you haven't already, go ahead and check out peaktocreekoutdoors.com. That's my hobby website that I'm working on. I didn't have one ready. Other priorities came up. And then lastly, I wanted to reach out to 5 new people who inspired me. I did reach out to 3 of the 5, so progress was made on that goal. I just didn't hit that 5 number last week. So moving forward, goals for this week, we're going to try a little bit harder. We're going to spend at least 5 hours learning how to use bubble.io. Obviously, that's one of my the obsession for this week, so I'm curious to jump in there and log at least 5 hours of training videos. They have a really good academy on their website, so we'll start there. I'm putting that log 15 miles on Strava goal back on the list. I really need to get those miles in and get the pavement, so we'll be doing that. And then I want to start pushing out more content on LinkedIn. I was better at this last year, and so I'm interested to get some more content on LinkedIn. Just share what I'm working on, and then also get some stuff that I think could be valuable to my network and put that out on LinkedIn. So that's it for this week. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to sign up for the newsletter so you can get this information a day early. If you go to chasekilby.com, you can sign up for the Marketing 168 newsletter. Those are sent out once a week on Wednesday mornings. But that's all I got. Have a good rest of your week, and I will see you later.